Alrighty, folks. Thanks so much for joining. It looks like we have more people kind of coming in as we go. We do have limited time with our webinar, so I am going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to our Microsoft Teams overview. We're really excited today to show you how to make the most out of the Teams program. My name is Katie Badeau, and I am the lead training and support specialist here at Element Technologies. I'm going to be taking you through this webinar to show you how you can make Teams work for your organization. I am here with my colleague, Heather Drew, who is a training specialist here at Element. Say hi, Heather.
Hello, everyone.
She is going to be assisting me in answering questions and kind of moderating this call. So if you do have any questions as we go through the webinar, please feel free to type them into the chat, and we're going to do our best to address them in our allotted time. So let's take a look at our agenda for our webinar here. We're going to begin by talking about what Teams is, as well as kind of just the basic understanding of why you might want to use it. Then we're going to actually move into the program and take a look around. I'll show you the difference between Teams and channels and kind of help you understand the structure of Teams. And then we're going to move into some functionalities. So we're going to send some chat messages. We're going to join a Teams meeting and kind of the basics that you need to get started with the program. Towards the end of our class, we're going to go over some tips and tricks, some options that you can utilize to kind of bring your Teams to the next level. If you use Teams regularly, maybe some of these will be time savers for you. And then with any remaining time, we will be able to take some questions and hopefully get those questions answered. So what exactly is Microsoft Teams? Teams is a chat-based collaboration tool from Microsoft that connects you with your colleagues. Because it is a Microsoft Office 365 product, it is fully integrated with the entire suite of Microsoft applications. So you can easily share your files and other content with other people inside of your organization. So in today's webinar, I'm going to take you through the basic functionality. Now, please keep in mind that the Teams experience is highly customizable, meaning that the structure of your Teams and the way you use the program will depend largely on the needs of your organization and the best practices you utilize to keep things kind of moving in a way that makes sense for you. So one of the main benefits of using Teams is that it is included with your Microsoft 365 subscription, meaning you won't pay additional licensing fees to use it. This is great news for keeping your software budget reasonable while still providing plenty of functionality. One of the other benefits that we'll talk about a little bit later is that Teams also reduces the need for app switching. So there are plenty of ways that you can bring other programs kind of inside of Teams. For example, you could look at your Word documents or your PowerPoints inside of the Teams program without actually having to launch those desktop applications. So you don't have quite as many programs open on your screen and you're not trying to jump between as many windows. And then, the last piece that I kind of want to mention is that we are working in an increasingly remote work environment. Many people are either working from home or, just collaborating and having their meetings virtually as opposed to meeting in the offices. And sometimes, it can be difficult to keep all of your employees connected. So in addition to all of these great benefits for your actual workflow, Teams is really great about just kind of helping you build camaraderie and keep your people in touch with each other. Alrighty, so let's go over to the Teams program. I'll get out of my PowerPoint here. And here we are in our actual Teams program. You can come in and, just sign in with your Microsoft username and password. And you're going to kind of be brought to this primary screen where I'm seeing all of my chats here. And on the left-hand side of my screen, I have a number of different tabs that I can use to sort of jump around and navigate throughout the program. So right now we're on our Teams tab. We have another tab here for chats. So this is going to allow you to chat with individuals. I have a little tab here up at the top for my activity. This is going to be my notifications if people reach out to me, or if they, send me information that I need to be made aware of. It'll pop up here in my notifications. So, this is how I can kind of jump between and navigate throughout the program to different areas that might be beneficial to me. Let's begin with our Teams tab here. So on our Teams tab, we're going to see all of the available different teams that we have access to. I currently have 2 here. One is my internal element team. And then this is our kind of demo team that we're going to be working with today for our XYZ firm. Now, there are kind of 2 levels of organization here. So our top level is our team level. This is my XYZ firm. And beneath that, I have my different channels. So a team is a broad group of people gathered to get something done in your organization, such as a major company initiative, a specialized project, or just day-to-day communications. So teams can be targeted to different groups of individuals to get information to the right people. Sometimes you may want a team that reaches your entire organization. You could also potentially have separate teams for each practice area or department to create a communication hub for those particular groups. So, there might be a team here for my entire firm, and then maybe down below, I would have another team that just focuses on my practice group. And that way the communication that's relevant just to us doesn't get kind of mixed up with other things that, other people may not need to know about. So within a team, we can segment our communication into channels. Channels are more focused conversations you have with your teammate. So each channel is going to be dedicated to a specific topic, department, or project. You can use a channel to post announcements, hold meetings, share updates, and find information. So I have some different channels here for different purposes. Every team is going to have a general channel by default. This is kind of the catch-all area if you need to kind of just begin a conversation, or maybe, your users aren't sure which channel to post it in. Posting in the general channel is going to kind of give access to everyone. And then I've created some additional channels here. I have one for each of our clients, for example. And so if there are relevant pieces of information for my Bluehound bus line client, for example, I could come in here and communicate with my team about this specific topic, in this case, this specific client. So I could post in here. Now, I do want to stress to you again that the structure of your teams will be entirely dependent on your organization's needs, and it is a good idea to come up with best practices for the structure of your teams to avoid chaos. You could also lock down the creation of new teams and channels to certain administrators to ensure that your chats kind of don't become the Wild West. So I could come down to the bottom of this list of chats, for example, and let's say I want to post some new information. I want to kind of reach out to the folks that, are involved in this Bluehound bus line client and let them know something new. So I am going to click on this button down at the bottom for new conversation, which will open up the text dialog box where I can enter my message. So I'm going to say, heads up, everyone, our primary contact at Bluehound has changed. Please direct all new communications to Jamie Smith. You will be taking over Bob's responsibilities. Responsibility. It's always hard to type when you're presenting. All right, so here's my little message. Now, before I click send, which, I've got this little arrow down in the bottom right-hand corner, which would post it, I do want to point out that you have these options, these kind of tools that will show up down beneath your chat window. So this one is really helpful. This is my format button. It kind of looks like a little A with a pencil. this is going to give you some more fields to work with. So I could add a subject here, new contact alert, whatever. And that just kind of creates a title for my post. I also have some formatting options, my basic sort of bold, underlined, italicized, but you can get pretty specific with how you format your messages here. I have bulleted lists, structures that I could create with tables and things of that nature. So if you really wanted to get fancy with your chat, there are plenty of options here if you click this little button. You could also attach an item to this chat if you wanted to, attach a file, for example. So if I click on my little paperclip icon, it gives me the ability to upload from my computer, OneDrive, or even find another file somewhere in Teams that I want to kind of reference here. There are also some fun things like little emojis or a GIF keyboard if you wanted to, like I said, kind of make your message a little bit flashier. So I'm finished with this. I've got my information, so I'll go ahead and click send to send that out. So now I've posted here in this team. If my colleagues that are also part of this team have their notifications turned on, they'll get a little notification in their activity log here. There also may be something that pops up in the bottom corner of their screen based on their notification settings. And now everybody has this information about this new contact. Now, from this root message, anybody can respond to continue the conversation. So I have this little reply option here, and you'll notice that I actually have these on all of my root conversations to kind of create an indented place where people can respond and kind of go back and forth about my sort of root topic here. So if, for example, I clicked and hit reply, you can see I get my little chat option that comes up again. And an awesome feature in Teams is the ability to mention someone. So essentially what we're doing here is tagging somebody to draw their attention to this message, or to maybe ask them a question, something like that. So I could mention, for example, Heather here. I just type the little @ symbol, and then as I begin filling in her name, it will give me suggestions, so I can just kind of choose her from the list, and I'll say, Heather Drew, can you please update the contact info in our database? So I'll hit enter, it sends that off. And now because I've tagged Heather here, she's going to get a notification to let her know that someone is addressing her directly. So for example, here's somewhere I was tagged earlier. My account, this one that I'm training from right now, is NetDocuments Demo 3. And I've got this little @ symbol that shows up on the right side of this message indicating that I am being mentioned here. And this is really nice if, especially if it's a busy sort of team channel and a lot of things are being posted, I can come in and check, and I've got this little kind of visual cue to be able to say, yes, this is where I'm being mentioned. This is what's relevant to me. And potentially this is what needs a response from me. So that can be really powerful. And personally, I use that all of the time because, again, depending on, and there's Heather, depending on, how often your channels are being used, there could be kind of a lot going on, and people may need to be directed to what's important to them. If this is an important chat, I can pin it. So I can kind of hover over my chat here. I'll click my little ellipsis button. And when I click this little ellipsis button, I get a number of different options. So, maybe if I made a typo, I could go in and edit it, or if I posted by mistake, I could delete. But we're going to look at this pin option here. So if I click on pin, it says, are you sure you want to do this? Yes. And it turns it green. It's got this little pin icon, and it's going to show up pretty prominently for anybody who comes to this channel. So again, you can kind of use these little bubbles and indicators to the right side of the chat to know what's important In this case, we're seeing that this information has been pinned. Up at the top of our team, we do have a number of different tabs. Now, these tabs can help you kind of navigate to other important information about this team. So right here, we're looking at our posts, which are our conversations. And to be honest, this is kind of the meat and potatoes of Teams. It is a chat-based tool. So that's going to kind of be the basis of how we're using this tool and how we're communicating with each other. However, there's a lot of other options going on. So for example, I could come over here and click on files, and this is going to show me all of the files that have been uploaded, edited and worked with on this particular team. So let's say that I'm back over here in the posts area and I upload a document and I say, hey, everyone, take a look at this. And I hit my little attachment icon, my paperclip down here, and I hit upload from my computer and grab a particular file. So that's going to kind of include this file in my chat, and it's sending it as part of this message, and I'll go ahead and click send. But in addition to putting it here in my chat, it is also going to show up in this files area so that I can come in and access it and easily get to those files without having to, scroll through my whole list of chats to get to it. Now, these files are saved and integrated with SharePoint. So, if you utilize SharePoint, you can access those files from there, and they are kind of, backed up to that greater system. Let's talk about Teams meetings. So another piece of kind of our functionality here in Teams is our meetings. And it makes it very easy. The team program makes it very easy to both plan and join meetings. If I'm here in this Teams channel, and let's say I want to have a call with everybody who's been added to this Bluehound bus line, and potentially we're even, communicating back and forth here. And I think, right, we don't need to be chatting. Let's just jump into a call. There's this button in the upper right-hand corner. It says Meet. And this is going to call everyone that is a part of this team. And I can make the decision if I want to meet now and just call everybody on the fly and see who picks up or, who has time to communicate, or I could schedule a meeting in the future. And if I click on schedule a meeting, it opens up this nice little dialog box that really mirrors, honestly, our Outlook meeting invitation options. So I could come in here and add a title. We'll call this budget meeting. I could add my attendees directly from, my team's environment. Again, kind of choosing who I want. And filling in, all the rest of this information, the details, etc. And I would just go ahead and click send. Now, another way, and you can see this information pops up in the team. So any sort of action that's happening is going to be posted, to the channel so that we could come in and utilize it. Now, because this is so integrated with Microsoft Office, our Outlook information is going to be kind of pulled into Teams as well. And this is part of what I was talking about with limiting our app switching. So instead of having to jump over to my Outlook calendar to look at my schedule for the day, for example, I do have a little calendar tab here on the left. I can click on it and it's going to show me my upcoming meetings. So, I have this meeting. It looks like it's coming up, my performance review with Sally Sue Doe. And I need to actually join this call. So I'm just going to click my join button here on my calendar to start that meeting. Now, here is a note. Oh, and it looks like it popped up there for showing that this meeting started. So I could just click here to join it. The other thing that you may want to keep in mind is that when you are joining a meeting, it's going to show you all of these video and audio options. I've found that personally, it's easiest to adjust all of these settings from the get-go. So instead of kind of just quickly jumping into the meeting and, hoping that you're going to figure out your video and your audio options after you get in there, I would take a second, take a breath, look and make sure, that your settings are engaged properly. I can turn my video on or off with this little toggle, and that's gonna, bring my video up. I can adjust my settings there. And then this is honestly where I think a lot of people will get tripped up is your audio options. So, you can come in here and look to see what are my device settings. It's telling me right now that I'm going to connect with my computer audio. And if I want to adjust those, I can click on this little kind of toggle option. And this is my set of settings that I think a lot of people miss, or that a lot of people I found kind of struggle with as they're trying to get into the meeting. So you could come in here, adjust your microphone, your speaker, and make your settings for your camera and things of that nature. So maybe if your audio is coming out of your laptop speakers, right, and you want them to come out of your headphones or vice versa, you can come in here and make that adjustment so that everything is set up and good to go before you jump in. So I'll go ahead and click join now to join the meeting. And from here, it's a lot of the same functionality that you'll see in any sort of generic video chatting application, right? So we've got our camera, we've got our mic, we can share our screen, similar functions that you'll see in Zoom or GoToMeeting, that sort of thing. So we've got our toolbar up here at the top. Now, in general, in a Teams meeting, you're not going to see information unless you click on the option to display it. So for example, if I want to see who's in this call, I do have to come in and click on my little people button here in my toolbar. That's going to show me who is here in the call. Same with the chat, it's not going to necessarily appear until I click on my little chat icon, and then I have the ability to send any chat messages that I want here in my list. I can make little reactions to things or add applications. I have some more options here that can be helpful. One thing that I really appreciate from Teams from an accessibility standpoint, and I guess you could maybe call this a tip or a trick, is the ability to turn on live captions as well as to transcribe a meeting. So your live captions, this is going to caption whatever folks are saying. If you have potentially users that are hard of hearing, this can be really great. A transcription is going to save all of the information that's being transcribed, whereas a live caption is just going to kind of display it as people are talking. So I'll go ahead and turn this on and we'll see if it starts transcribing for me. Normally it will kind of pop up down here at the bottom. There we go. And again, this is just a really nice feature for potentially those folks that struggle with that piece of working remotely and dealing with all of the audio features. I know personally, sometimes it's nice for me to be able to just see what people are saying instead of having to do that guesswork. So I do really appreciate, that kind of accessibility feature that's available here. So that's our Teams, meeting environment. And like I said, a lot of the functionality is similar to what we'll see in other programs. I could come in here and share my screen, for example. If I click on my share button, it gives me a number of different tools for how I want to share my screen. I can choose the screen that I want to share. I can share an individual window. Now, you may want to share an individual window if you're worried about putting sensitive content on your screen. So in general, as a best practice, usually before I share my screen, I like to close all my applications just in case something were to pop up. But another way around that is to come in and click to share a specific window. So I could come in here and say, oh, I only want to share this Word document, or I only want to share this PowerPoint. And that way people aren't seeing, other applications on your computer. I think it is often easiest to share a screen because one thing that you have to keep in mind with the windows is potentially jumping between different windows as you're sharing. But that's, kind of a call that you can make on your own. based on kind of your sharing needs. But there are quite a lot of tools here for you to work with for sharing your screen. And then when I'm ready to leave, I'll just go ahead and click leave, and that will, of course, get me out of that meeting. So I really like utilizing this calendar feature. It helps me sort of stay in this particular area, and get to my meetings really quickly and easily. So with our last couple of minutes, I want to show you some tools that I've used in Teams that have helped me out. If I go into a team, for example, and I want to find a message in this channel that somebody sent to me, I can head up to the search bar and I can just begin typing. However, if I just begin typing a certain term or looking for the name of a document, it's going to search my entire Teams environment. So it's going to look in my chat and it's going to look in all of my various different channels. I can limit my search by doing a little backward slash, typing the word find. And in fact, before I type that, you can see that there's actually a lot of different, functions that you can use with this backslash. So I would recommend kind of exploring some of these and seeing if they're helpful. But I'll go ahead and enter the word find and hit enter there. Now, what that does, as soon as I put that backslash find in there, I have the ability to select which channel or which chat I want to search in. So this is how I can kind of limit my search and say, I don't really want to look through my entire Teams environment. I only want to look in this Bluehound Busline team. So I'll click on that selection. And then up at the top, I'll put in my key terms. So what I'm doing is essentially creating a more limited, more narrow search for myself, and I'll hit enter. Now, what this is doing is it's showing me my results here on the left-hand side. I can click on any of those results, and this is a message that contains this last will and testament of Elvis Presley. So when I click on it, it will jump up to this particular message so that I can view it. I could come in here and, type in a different word to, let's see, navigate me somewhere else. And it's going to show me all of those options here on the side. Oh, maybe here's something from Heather that I wanted to look at. Let me click here and it'll navigate me through. Now, I find this particularly helpful because, Teams can kind of get full of information. I don't want to say cluttered because it is organized, but it can be a little bit overwhelming, especially if it's being heavily utilized. You get a lot of chats that kind of build up over time. And you may think to yourself, hey, I need to get back to that chat. Do I just scroll endlessly? This is a good way to jump directly to where you need to go. Something else that you can do with Teams, and I know that we're sort of running out of time, but I did just want to mention this. Up at the top, we do have these tabs I mentioned in our channels. One is going to show me my posts. One is going to show me my files. And then one of the most powerful buttons in Teams is this little plus sign. It's going to allow me to add a tab. So if I click on add tab, it gives me all of these different options and all of these different apps. So it's very possible that some of your favorite programs are already built out to have integration with Teams, and you can just access them from within inside the program. So I could link to a website, for example. Let's say that I wanted to link to my firm intranet, right? So that my users can get to the intranet really quickly and easily. I could call this my intranet, paste my URL here to go to a certain page, and then I'll hit save. What that does is it adds another tab up at the top that's going to display this intranet information right here inside of my program. So users, including myself, right, can come straight here and get to this page without having to open up a web browser. I can also create shortcuts to specific items. If I wanted to add an Excel tab, I could hit Excel and choose a specific file. Let's see here. I'll grab some client information. And this will even create a tab up at the top for that specific file. And I can access it from inside my team. So I could be communicating with my team and then head up and look at this particular Excel document that has all of my contact info. So it looks like we are at time for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll stay on for a couple minutes and see if we have some questions. I, of course, understand if you do have to drop off for other calls. Heather, did we have some questions come through in the chat?
We did. Debbie asked if there was a way to create a sound notification because she seemed to be, missing some of her notifications, and I gave her the steps, and hopefully that came through to everyone in the question and answer window there to go to her profile picture and click on that, click on manage account. Yeah, and then notifications, and then she can play sounds for incoming calls, and there are some more options for notifications there. Someone asked if it's possible to do polling within teams and channels, and I gave a couple of article links to some support articles from Microsoft. Yes, it is definitely possible, not just for Teams channels or chats, but for meetings as well. So hopefully those links will be helpful. And then we did have another question from Debbie. Can you explain the Wiki option in Teams? And I personally don't have a lot of experience with that. I did give her a link to a support article, but if you go back to your tabs, one of them is Wiki. And I know that you can, write content, link to sections. I'm just looking at the support. I don't know if you have more experience in this than I do. You can mention someone in a section, start a chat in a section. So those are kind of some cool options. So I guess the plus button right there would be a way to, get your new sections, and then put your content for your wiki.
Awesome. Yeah, I think this is just a good way to kind of get various different pieces of information, again, just kind of easily accessible, and just having it as one more tab up there at the top.
Yeah, I can kind of see that as a way to do like a knowledge base. If it was kind of more informal knowledge base, internal. We do have some more questions that hopefully we can answer. Just curious if this will be a series to keep learning more. Thanks so much for this, super helpful. So that's great. I don't see why not.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we with our limited time, we were kind of only able to cover our sort of basic functionalities. But if there's demand, we're happy to kind of do an advanced Teams webinar and show you some of those additional functionalities to kind of build things out. Teams is a robust program. I think one of the best features of Teams is that it is kind of open-ended, and you can build it out in such a way that is really going to work for your organization. You're not limited to the structures, the layout, even kind of the functionalities of one thing. And something that we didn't have a ton of time to get in today, but I kind of briefly mentioned it, are all of these applications. So there's a whole app store for Teams where you can go in and like this, for example, this is one of our little tools, one of our little plugin apps called Office Vibe. And it will prompt us regularly to submit feedback about our organization. And it's really helpful. It's just integrated right here. So again, you don't have to go to another application to get to it. And there's quite a large number of apps and tools that you can kind of integrate here to speed up your workflow.
We do have a couple more questions. How do I make a new channel?
How do I make a new channel? Yeah, absolutely. So you would come up to your team up here at the top, hit your little ellipsis button. So there's a lot of ellipsis buttons here in Teams. If you kind of, if you kind of hover over things, you'll see you can get additional options here on the right. So I would click I would choose add channel here. And then I could come in and call this, project XYZ or whatever it needed to be, the channel name. I could do the channel description. And then this is where I can choose my privacy options. So, you create your teams based on who you want to have access to them. Everyone on this team, my XYZ firm, could either have access, or if I do private, I could limit it to whoever I wanted to, and other people wouldn't be able to see it. So if I said create, for example, and I do a private one, I could come in here and I could one by one add the individuals that I wanted to be a part of that channel. And I can choose whether they're a member or an owner of that channel. I'll hit done. And because it's a private team, it's got this little lock icon. If a user is not part of that private team, they are not going to see it in the list. So for example, I've got this onboarding process improvement. If my users weren't a part of that private channel, they wouldn't see it as something they couldn't access or anything like that.
We do have a couple more questions. And I think Annette, if you're still on, she said, need to understand if you can have different permissions for the team and channels. And I think what you just did kind of goes over a majority of how you would lock things down.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
It would just be the difference between whether it was a standard channel accessible to everybody or a private channel. Now, you could have a more private team that was only limited to a handful of individuals. And in the same way, if people didn't have access to that team, they wouldn't even see it in the list. But you would still be able to utilize it with those kind of locked down fewer individuals.
Yeah. And then finally, it looks like, are there any other ways of receiving notifications if we don't have sound capabilities?
Yeah, so when you come in here and when you do the manage notifications option, you can kind of choose, do you want the little pop-up ones? Do you want, it's got the Teams built in, or Windows? You'll get a Windows notification. And in fact, let me see if I can just prompt myself to have one. Let's see here.
Or I can message you.
Yeah, that'd be good, actually.
Okay, I'm on Bluehound bus line, and
there's one. See, yeah. So you can make it kind of pop up here in the bottom.
Yeah.
And it'll either close it out, or you could respond to it. And you can control on a channel by channel basis what notifications you're getting. So if one is maybe a little bit more urgent or more important, you could get notifications for that channel and maybe mute a different channel, for example.
Perfect. We've got a couple people saying, yes, please offer more ongoing training, and that they really enjoyed it. And then Annette does have another question if we have some time. Can anyone who has access permission in a team or channel delete files? Is the owner notified?
You can get pretty granular with that. So let me see here. If I hit my little ellipsis button here on a particular channel, and I go to manage channel as one of those options in that ellipsis option. This is where you can set some of those. So channel moderation, for example, if I click on, I can choose who can moderate that channel. Here are their permissions. Can they submit channel messages? Can they pin items? Things of that nature. There's also analytics. And then I think you can also lock it down from the team level here. If I come in, I hit manage team. There we go. So this is going to show me, some settings, member permissions. Do I allow people to delete items? Do I allow them to add their messages? Can they mention? Can they work with, tools and things like that? So, I could come in and choose which members have owner privileges, which ones do not have that, and they're just on their member privileges. And that's kind of where you would access those functions, is here through the manage teams functionality, and then going in and kind of setting, which options you want for those different individuals. Yeah. Well, I know we did run over a little bit, but I think it was all really good stuff to kind of look at. I do really appreciate y'all joining me today. I am hearing loud and clear that we want some more training on this topic. So look out for some posts, some element information about when we can talk next about teams. I hope that y'all have a lovely day. Thanks again.